Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another edition of Against the Odds. So last week, on our Against the Odds poll, we had an all-Ixalan poll, and unsurprisingly, it was Revel in Riches that came out on top. So this week, we were heading to Ixalan Standard to see if we can win some games by getting 10 treasure tokens on the battlefield alongside Revel in Riches. So a quick reminder before we talk about the deck, if you want to vote for next week's Against the Odds deck, make sure to follow the link in the description to the article on the website. Down at the bottom of the article you'll find a poll, bunch more sweet Ixalan options for next week. Anyway, let's talk Revel in Riches. So Revel in Riches is on one level an alternate win condition, but it's an alternate win condition that's pretty powerful because it does something when it's not winning us the game. It makes us mana, so whenever an opposing creature dies, we get a treasure token, which is basically a lotus petal. We can sack it to add a mana of any color to our mana pool, and then if we manage to get 10 treasures on the battlefield, we win the game. So that is kind of our end goal. We will use the mana along the way if we need to, but we're trying to get 10 treasures on the battlefield, and for this we have a couple of different plans. While we are focused on killing our opponent's creatures to get treasures that way, we can't really rely on that because killing 10 creatures is a lot. There'll be games where our opponent doesn't even play 10 creatures or even one creature. So we have other ways of making treasures as well that doesn't involve triggering the first ability on Revel in Riches. The sweet trick of the deck is using our treasures for mana even when we don't want to sack them, which is most of the time because we want to get to 10 treasures on the battlefield. So the trick here is to use Inspiring Statuary, which lets us tap all of our treasures to add colorless mana for non-artifact spells, which is fine. Apart from Inspiring Statuary, we're pretty much all non-artifact anyway, so we just tap our treasures for mana, meaning they're still on the battlefield to count towards Revel in Riches, but still adding mana to help us accelerate into more treasure producers, even more big plays. So that's kind of the main, I guess, combo or synergy of the deck. It's a little risky to play Inspiring Statuary because a Braid does kind of blow it out, but when it's not getting blown up, it's super powerful and just adds a ton of mana in conjunction with our treasures while letting us keep our treasures on the battlefield to count towards our Revel in Riches win. So how do we go about producing treasures? The easiest way to just make a whole bunch of treasures is Spell Swindle, and Spell Swindle is sweet because it doesn't rely on our opponent playing creatures. Our opponent's going to play something. Even if you're a control deck with no creatures, you got to play spells to win the game. So we can just leave up our Spell Swindle, maybe cast it for like 2 real mana by tapping our treasures to our Inspiring Statuary with Improvise, and then we counter, let's say, a Torrential Gearhulk. That's 6 treasures by itself. Even if we're just countering a 4 mana, a 5 mana play, that's a lot of treasures for the mana cost. So Spell Swindle is our best way of just making a whole bunch of treasures all at once by surprise on our opponent's turn, untap, win the game with Revel in Riches. So really key part of our plan of winning with Revel in Riches. Our other treasure producers, Treasure Map is super important because it comes down on turn 2. It lets us scry to find our Revel in Riches, to find our treasure producers, to find our removal spells, and then eventually it's not only going to flip around and make 3 treasures, which is like almost a third of the way towards the Revel in Riches win, but it also lets us sacrifice our treasures to draw cards, basically turning our treasures into clues, which is actually really important to our deck because it gives us a source of card advantage. We have Spell Swindles to make huge chunks of treasures all at once, so sometimes we want to cash in some of our treasures to draw cards. Even though they're not going to count towards Revel in Riches because we're sacking them, if we can make 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 treasures with the 1 treasure we're sacking to draw a card with the card we draw into, it's a worthwhile trade. Pirate's Prize, it's just like our Glimmer of Genius. It does make 1 treasure, keeps us cycling through our deck, and then Vraska Relic Seeker is pretty awesome. It kills a lot of annoying stuff. It kills Anointed Processions and Hidden Stockpiles and these other things our deck would have a really hard time dealing with, alongside creatures. If we have a Revel in Riches out and we kill a creature with Vraska, we get not just 1 treasure token from Vraska's ability, but also 2 treasure tokens. Makes pirates to chump block, so another great way to make a bunch of treasure tokens, keep us alive while we're waiting to get to treasure tokens with the pirates, and it's also like our backup win condition. We can always just put our opponent to 1 life, win with a pirate or one of our random beaters. The other way we can make treasures is just by killing our opponent's stuff. So Fatal Push is great in this deck because treasures give us these really free revolt triggers. If we sacrifice a treasure to pay for our fatal push, we automatically have revolt. We can kill anything up to 4 converted mana cost. Essence extraction helps against aggro matchups like ramen on bread, kills a lot of things in those matchups, and then never to return is basically a worse Vraska's Contempt. However, Vraska's Contempt exiles, so it doesn't actually trigger Revel and Ridges. So in our deck, we'd rather never something, even though it's a little bit less powerful because it gets us the treasure with Revel and Ridges. So these help us generate our treasures by killing our opponent's stuff, triggering that first ability on Revel and Riches as we get up towards the 10 treasures. Then we have Bantu's Last Reckoning, which is awesome against go wide matchups. In theory, if we're playing like against a token deck, they might have 10 creatures on the battlefield, and then if we have a Revel and Riches out, Bantu's Last Reckoning is just 3 mana, win the game. We blow up 10 creatures, we get 10 treasures, untap our next turn. Our lands don't untap, but that doesn't matter because we're going to win on our upkeep with Revel and Ridges. So it's a way we can just blow up everything all at once and hopefully make a ton of treasure tokens. Finally, we have Tezzeret the Schemer, which doesn't make treasures, unfortunately. It makes Ethereum cells, which are exactly treasures, but with a different name, so they don't work with Revel and Riches. However, once we have a Revel and Riches out, we can sack our Ethereum cell tokens to make mana, to cast removal spells, to kill creatures, and kind of like transform the Ethereum cells into treasures. Plus, Tezzeret is just an awesome backup win condition in this deck. We have so many artifacts laying around. We can ultimate Tezzeret and just go beatdowns with 5/5 treasure tokens, which is pretty sweet on its own. Plus, it's another way we can kill things. We have a bunch of treasures out. We kill Hazarats and Scarab Gods and other super annoying creatures, get treasures when the creature dies. So Tezzeret is like maybe the second best card or second most important card in our deck. Otherwise, we have a couple of Search for Riskantas. Our deck doesn't really have many creatures, so this is just another good 2-drop value play. Helps us make sure we hit our land drops in the early game, helps us find our Revel and Riches. Eventually it flips around, and then we just dig through our deck, find removal, find treasure producers, find Revel and Riches. Really hard to lose once we get to that point, because we're always hitting something, because our deck is just overloaded with non-creature, non-land spells. As far as the mana base, bunch of fast lands, Drowned Catacombs, Fetid Pools, basically just all the good duels in our colors, a couple of Evolving Wilds for more revolt triggers, some islands, swamps, and forests. In the sideboard, our control package, we have 4 Duress, 3 Negate, so we can take out our creature removal, bring in counters and Duress if we run into blue-black control and decks like that. 1 Doomfall, which kind of walks a line, is good in a lot of matchups. We can use it like a bad Thoughtseize, use it like a bad Edict, but it does do a lot of important things. As far as the more aggressive matchups, 2 more Essence Extraction for a bit of life gain while still killing stuff. We do have the Vraska's Contempt in the sideboard, because sometimes you just really got to deal with a Scarab God, really got to deal with a Hazarat, and Never to Return doesn't actually get that done. And then another Bantu's Last Reckoning for the go wide matchups like tokens or merfolk, weird things like that that are making tons of creatures for the combo with Revel and Riches. Finally, Crook of Condemnation, another Scarab God answer. If we run into God Pharaoh's Gift, good answer there as well. And that is Revel and Riches for Standard, and that's our Against the Odds deck for this week. So I think this deck is pretty sweet. I mean, Revel and Riches itself is a bit slow. 10 treasures is a lot of treasures, but if there was ever a deck that was going to get to 10 treasures, it's probably this one. Plus, even apart from making 10 treasures, the fact that we could go treasure beatdown with Tezzeret Ultimate is pretty awesome as well. Like, maybe we can not only win with treasures and Revel, but maybe we can win with treasure beatdown, which would be super, super, super sweet. So, I don't know. This deck actually looks pretty fun. I think it'll be interesting, at least. Hopefully, we get some Revel and Riches wins, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. So, anyway, that's our Against the Odds deck for this week. Revel and Riches for Standard. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy the gameplay videos, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, take a second and click that like button down below. It's a great way to help support the channel for free, and you can find the next video in the playlist right here.